Mike McDaniel is officially the offensive coordinator of the Chargers. We'll tell you which players gain the most dynasty value and lose the most value next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is the Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, Michael Fabiano, and it's a Wednesday show. So, of course, Matt Williamson, former NFL scout, is here, and we've got a busy show for you guys today. We're going to talk about if you can build a dynasty champion without trading. We're going to talk about an 18-game schedule that just feels inevitable at this point. But, Matt, I want to start with you on Mike McDaniel, who withdrew his name from the Cleveland Browns head coaching search to take the offensive coordinator job with the Chargers. First of all, that's fascinating. But my question for you is, how do you see McDaniel changing this offense, and which players do you think are going to gain the most value here in LA?
Well, first of all, I think the offense will vastly improve. I mean, first of all, you get back a pair of incredibly good bookend offensive tackles, too. That has nothing to do with the coaching change, but that's going to have a massive ripple effect on the entire offense. I think McDaniel is a phenomenal offensive mind and very fantasy friendly. And we're all very happy about this. And I think Herbert's the low-hanging fruit, you know, more first downs, more touchdowns, more yards for the entire offense that he benefits. What I'm interested in, and it seems like it'd be too much of a wholesale change, but when you think about the Miami offenses, you think about speed, little guys that can fly. It's not what the Chargers have. I mean, are they going to move on from Hampton and, you know, QJ and all these other guys that aren't, you know, speed merchants just to, you know, change things around for the new coordinator? Like Gadsden, to me, can do the Jonnu Smith stuff from a year ago. Are they going to get away from like the Matt Locke type guys? I would think so. That's small potatoes, but it's still a philosophical change. I bet he's not going to change the personnel all that much. I don't think they're going to go look for the next Achane or Tyreek or Waddle. You know, I mean, they're probably going to settle for the guys they have, and he's going to have to adapt. Is that, you think I'm on, what do you think? I'm not sure yet.
Michael, I want your thoughts. What do you think, Fabs?
No, Matt's right. It's a win in fantasy. You know, his offenses are very, very fantasy friendly. I think it is a win for Omarion Hampton because you don't draft a dude in the first round, especially now who plays running back, and not utilize him. You know, Najee Harris, obviously coming off the Achilles, may or may not be back. We just don't know. The offensive line, as Matt mentioned, that's a big part. Will be healthier, will be at 100%, hopefully going into next season. And so I think this is a win for just about everyone. Now, Keenan Allen, does he come back? I mean, he's a free agent after this upcoming season. So, I mean, is he back in Los Angeles in 2026? We know Lad McConkey will be there. We know Gadsden's going to be there. We know that Quentin Johnston's going to be there. And I think he's going to be able to adapt there. They've got good young talent. I don't think that you're going to get rid of good young talent just because the offensive coordinator has maybe not utilized those type of players in terms of skill set and build in the past. And I think this is a win all the way around, unless you're, you know, a Tennessee Titan hoping that he was going to be the OC there. That did not happen. But
by the way, did you see we got an update on the Titans offensive coordinator job? According to Diana Rossini, if Brian Daboll doesn't get the Bills head coaching job, he's taking the Titans offensive coordinator job over the Eagles job, which was offered to him, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's a win for the Titans as well if the Bills don't hire him to be their head coach. And that would be interesting if that happened.
So, Matt, real quick on McDaniel. I think we get in trouble when we assume that when a coach leaves one situation for another, that everything is going to be exactly the same.
Right.
Like when we saw this with Ben Johnson in Detroit going to Chicago, we were trying to find, okay, who's going to be the next Amon-Ra St. Brown and who's going to be the Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think Ben Johnson did a really good job of adapting his offense to the pieces that he had. Now they're going to want some certain types of players. But I think Mike McDaniel is a smart enough guy to realize, hey, this is what we have right now. Let's build an offense that makes the most sense. I think the only thing that's a little bit of a concern for me is that I don't know if Omarion Hampton is a great fit in a wide zone offense. Usually the McDaniel or Shanahan's, they like the guys with a little bit more speed that can find a gap and go. But I also think they've kind of gone away from the wide zone stuff a little bit over the last couple of years, which is all a roundabout way of me saying I'm just not panicking either way.
No, I think, as Fabs mentioned, I think this is a win across the board. The offense is going to be better. I wasn't implying that they'd move on from Hampton or these bigger guys. If they add anything, it shock me if it wasn't a speed guy. Najee's inconsequential. I would think maybe
he's a free agent.
He's a free agent. I mean, maybe there's a 5th round back that runs a 4.3 added to the mix or something like that. That's 205.
Kamani Vidal wasn't bad either, guys. I mean, you got to
true.
remember he was not bad. I mean, maybe he's going to stick, right, and be there too.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably sign some version of Matt Breida, Jeff Wilson, Elijah Mitchell, one of those guys, right, that come in and be a backup running back. I think Hampton's just going to get a ton of work. And we even saw this year, like they used Ollie Gordon in the red zone a lot in Miami, and he was getting more work, and they were, putting different guys in the backfield, and they were all successful. I think you're right though. Like it's going to be a better overall offense. And I'm just fascinated to see how McDaniel tries to use Justin Herbert, because he's never had a quarterback like this. Even back when he was with the 49ers, he had Jimmy Garoppolo for a lot of his career. They had Johnny Manziel all the way back in Cleveland when he was the wide receiver coach there. He's got to feel like he's hit the lottery with Justin Herbert.
Yeah, for sure.
And what's funny too, guys, is that what are most Dolphins fans the most pissed about in the last, 5 to 8 years? They could have had Justin Herbert, and they took Tua Tagovailoa. McDaniel coached Tua, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Now he gets Herbert.
So, Marcus, for years now, I've been making the joke that the Dolphins have too many Ferraris and not enough dump trucks. But last year, they went out and got a couple dump trucks. They drafted a nose tackle in the first round, a guard in the second round, and Ollie Gordon.
They played Alec Ingold, their fullback, more.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that they started to adapt, that it can't just be speed, and eventually we have to go to New England or New York or whatever in the winter. Not every game's going to be great weather. So I definitely think McDaniel can adapt to certainly Herbert, but the pieces he's inheriting, because Tua you have to silo your offense so much for him that I almost feel like McDaniel was coaching with one arm behind his back,
I think he's going to love all the different things he can do. Really quickly, I think of all the players on the offense that I think could gain the most value, I actually think it's Orande Gadsden, who I've never been super high on. But you look at Mike McDaniel's track record, like what he did with Darren Waller this year out of retirement. Waller was awesome. Or what he did last year with Jonnu Smith, who was almost unplayable in Pittsburgh, right, Matt? Like he's a tight end whisperer, and I think Gadsden going into year 2 could be the player that gets a ton of these over the middle targets. I think he has to be the biggest winner in this offense.
You're right. But before Jonnu, tight end was irrelevant in fantasy in Miami. So it really did a 180 where it went from, Miami doesn't use the tight ends to all of a sudden, wow, Jonnu Smith, look what happened there. And Darren Waller did have some games. He was kind of touchdown dependent in fantasy, to be honest with you. But I think everyone wins here in Los Angeles, except for Mike McDaniels. The biggest loser is probably going from a state with no income tax to going to a state with all of the state income tax.
Are you saying this is a former LA resident?
I am. That's no question about that. No question about that. That's the only loss here for McDaniel.
Matt, any final thoughts on McDaniel before we move on?
No. I guess the last one is, I think he's shown, especially Tyreek at the height of his powers, or when Tyreek's out, they switch to the tight ends, that he gets the ball in his best player's hands. And that's what we want.
Yep, that's what we want. All right, let's talk about trading in Dynasty football, because I have a couple players in my league that will never trade no matter what, because they never want to lose.
Take them out. Get them out. Take them out.
We'll get to that. Can you build a Dynasty contender without trading? We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Drip Drop. Kicking off the year feeling good is the goal, right? And honestly, hydration is the easiest win. And when I stay on top of it, my energy, my focus, and my mood are all leveling up. But let's be real, plain water doesn't always cut it, especially when you're grinding through long days, hitting the gym, or just trying to stay consistent with your health goals. And that's where Drip Drop comes in. Doctor developed, proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work together. Think clear focus, better energy, elevated mood, and even that fresh skin glow. And right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off their first order. Go to dripdrop.com. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's dripdrop.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 20% off. Stock up now at dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL.
What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. If you haven't done so already, check out the new Everydayer Club. You're going to get ad-free episodes to this podcast and so much more for just $5 a month. Go to lockedondynasty.supercast.com to learn more. All right, Matt, let's talk about trading. You and I love to trade. Like, it's one of our favorite things to do.
Dude, don't leave me out of that.
Fabs likes to trade, but he doesn't like to. There's certain people that Fabs gets upset when he trades with. And some of your
when they offer me stupid trades, then I get upset.
We'll get to you. Just relax. We had a question from Curtis. Is it possible to build a dynasty contender champion without trading?
Yeah. First off, I mean, if somebody put the notion in to get rid of people in your league that refuse to trade, I would probably vote in favor of kicking them out too.
See?
Yeah, I mean, but you have to be perfect. I mean, yes, it's possible, but that would be like, can an NFL team win a Super Bowl without using free agency? You know, like only through the draft, or you know what I mean? Like this not using a tool that's available to you for whatever.
By the way, there
reason.
are a lot of teams like that don't like to use free agency at all, and they're kind of cutting off their nose to spite their face, right?
Yeah, right. So how far are we even taking this? Like, I'm not sure you could win a dynasty league consistently if you don't even trade up during rookie drafts. You know, like, oh, I got spot number 8. I have to pick at spot number 8. You know, like that makes it really, really tough. If you don't want to trade your guys because you drafted them and you adore them, we all know those owners. You know, like they value their players more than the rest of the league values them or the world does because they drafted them and they love them and they have faith in them and they're the best talent evaluators out there.
And that's what usually happens. There's going to be a couple managers in the league that always overvalue their own assets, so they're just never able to get a trade done. It doesn't mean that they're actively saying, I don't want to complete a trade, but they're harder to trade with. But according to this Curtis, who is asking our question, there's a manager in their league that just refuses to trade. He doesn't believe in trading because for whatever reason, maybe he doesn't want to potentially be wrong, or maybe he thinks he's a better talent evaluator than everybody else. But I'm with you. I think it's really hard to win consistently year over year doing that strategy.
Especially if you don't utilize rookie draft trades, to me. I mean, that to me is even taking it to a new level. Like, these are draft picks I got. I have to pick this player here, whether I like a guy or not. I mean, that's crazy.
Fabs, what do you think?
I was in a league this past season with someone who refused to make trades. It's not a dynasty. It was a redraft. You all know him. I'm not going to throw him under the bus. His backfield was terrible. I had backfield depth. I tried to talk him into a trade. He wouldn't do it. And it would have helped him big time. And he ended up finishing as one of the worst teams in the league. And he won't be back next season. Let's just put it that way. It is so much fun to make trades. To me, past the draft, it's the most enjoyable part about fantasy sports. Look at the NFL. Do you guys remember a long time ago, there were no trades in the NFL? Didn't happen.
Right.
And then Champ Bailey got traded for Clinton Portis and kind of that started it. Okay. This is fun. Baseball, you've had that for years, and basketball and hockey. Trades, fun stuff. NFL didn't have it. And then suddenly now it does. It's right up there with any other sport out there that makes trades. And it's made the league more enjoyable in the offseason. And in fantasy football, what do you build depth for? When you have a dynasty team and you have depth. I had a dynasty team, which I jettisoned because Marcus knows the story. I had 4 awesome wide receivers who were all under 25. I don't need them all. I'm building depth so I can try and sell high on somebody or make a trade from strength to improve a weaker part of my team. Why would you not do that? It's all part of creating. Now, you can have a championship team without trading. I'm why not? But why would you? And it's, again, like you guys said, much more difficult to do that. It's just so much fun. Now, I'm not going to get bananas like Mosher and let people trade the week of the fantasy football championship. That's insane. That's throw you in a straitjacket and put you in a padded room. Don't do that.
It's no worse than having kickers in dynasty leagues.
No, it's insane in the membrane. But trades are so much fun. I mean, fantasy football is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Like people, you go buy a Ferrari, you don't park it in the damn garage. You take it out, and you do donuts and you go 120 or maybe more on the highway and try not to get pulled over by the cops. It's supposed to be fun. Trading is fun.
Matt, let me ask you this. If you've had a manager in your league who hasn't completed a trade in, let's say, 2 or 3 seasons, do you have a discussion about, hey, why aren't you trading? Have you been open to trades? Why aren't you completing trades? Or do you just not really worry about it because it's their dynasty team?
I mean, they have every right to do that if that's how they want to treat their team, if they don't want to enjoy it as much as possible or utilize all the assets to make their team as good as possible. But I might send the commissioner a note and say, why don't you ask Johnny why he never trades? Is it because, you know what I mean? Is he just
I think it's different. If that team is like winning consistently and they're in the playoffs, like that's one thing.
Right.
But if this is a team that's consistently like in the bottom 3 or 4 of your league, and they just really have like no interest in trying to make their team better, that's where you might need to have a conversation.
Exactly. If they're a good owner, a good team, I mean, it's just the way you do business. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I guess I can't condemn you for it. If you're the owner that also like starts dudes on buys and things like that too, well, then we got a real problem. You're just a bad owner.
Yeah. You know? Fabs, any final thoughts on trading? Because I know this is a big topic for you.
If you're not trading, you're not trying. That's what I've been saying for 25 years in this industry. And again, it is the most fun that you can have after the draft. I mean, if you win the trade or you lose the trade, for me, I get a lot of, people coming up, I robbed this guy. And then at the end of the season, it turns out I didn't. That maybe the other owner got the better of me. And that's fine. It's just fun, right? This offseason, what is going to be the biggest thing that we are looking for besides, the rookie draft? It's trades and which teams go where. It's the most fun that you can have in fantasy sports. So yes, make trades, make offers. Don't be that guy that offers horrible trades, because then, that is not going to do you any favors. But make trades. This is all supposed to be for fun.
All right, let's talk about an 18-game NFL schedule, which appears to be happening in the very near future. We'll tell you how that's going to impact your fantasy and dynasty leagues next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode every game day during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you're going to see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets that you like the most. Like, I think the Super Bowl is going to be Seattle versus New England. I think both those teams take care of business in round 3. You can go bet on that right now in FanDuel and use your profit boost to get an even bigger payout while the playoffs continue to roll on. So visit FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. Like if I needed to hire someone for this show, and I never would do that because Marcus Mosher is like a brother to me. He's fantastic. I got to ride his coattails. But if I ever had to do it, Marcus, I would never. I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. And instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role, and that makes a real difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spending time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We've got some news that from Robert Kraft, the Patriots owner, that he's really pushing for an 18-game schedule. He would like to see the preseason reduced from 3 games to 2 games and have every team play 2 international games. And there's some rumblings that maybe we would get 2 bye weeks, so you'd have a 20-week NFL schedule. Fabs, I want to start with you. If and when that happens, how should we adjust our fantasy leagues so to make sure we get the most competitive and fun league possible?
First off, the NFL is not doing fantasy football any favors by doing this. Like, I want to go back to the 16-game schedule, but I'm a traditionalist, okay? I don't like that whole tournament in the NBA during the regular season too. That's just me. But this is potentially going to make a big impact on fantasy football and change the way we do things. Okay. So I'll give you a couple examples. One, you mentioned it, 2 bye weeks per team. We last year had a bye-mageddon in week 14, the week before the fantasy playoffs. What happens if the buys all of a sudden are extending into the fantasy playoffs? That's going to suck. Okay. Also, more injuries. Listen, we had 1 million injuries this year. Every week, Marcus and I and Matt were talking about this guy's hurt and that guy's hurt. It's going to happen even more. And then you're also going to have to deal with more of what the NBA calls load management. You thought the Seahawks backfield was a nightmare this past season? Because it was. Guess what? You're going to see more of that because teams are not going to want running backs into the ground for 18 games. It's all of a sudden going to be more committees, unless you have, a Derrick Henry or a Bijan. And even Bijan, maybe they would use Algier a little bit more if he was still on the team. I don't like this. And I would say this. Number one, I still tell you it should be determined who makes the playoffs by record points. Get the best 6 teams in. And then when you get to the playoffs, it's all play. That's the only way it's going to be fair, especially if a team's got a bye. Marcus, what happens in the first round of the playoffs if the NFL's got 4 teams on a bye? You and I are playing against each other, and oh, wait, you got Josh Allen. Guess what? You can't use him. Have fun using your backup against me. That's a bunch of horse. You know what? I think more people are going to have to go into all play playoffs. And what that means is every week you play against everybody. And the 2 highest scoring teams, even if they played each other head to head that week, advance to the next round. Same thing in the semis and then in the championship. I think that's what you're going to have to do because you're going to get a lot of people that are going to be being and moaning and think, I fought all year long and my guy is on a bye during the playoffs, or I had a guy that's been great all year, and now all of a sudden his team's maybe going to utilize load management because they're going to make the playoffs and they don't want to break them down before the start of the postseason. I hate this. It's something that's inevitable. It's going to happen. We sat on our hands in fantasy when we went to 17 games and did nothing. And how many people were complaining about all the players that were out in their semifinals and their championship, Marcus? It's going to get worse.
Matt.
Yeah, some phenomenal points there. And what I think is going to happen, what I basically know is going to happen, is they're going to take away a preseason game. The league is going to start Labor Day weekend. And a lot of people are like, oh, we don't want to start Labor Day week. Everyone's going to watch no matter what. What are you talking about? You know, like people watch on Christmas. I mean, Labor Day weekend, who cares? Yeah. And from an NFL perspective, there's some things I like about it because I think you'll get expanded rosters, which also backs up what Fabs was saying. What if I keep this extra kick returner type guy and he steals 5 carries from Bijan every week too, you know, because I have an extra roster spot and, you know, specialists, things like that. And I also think it'd be good for developing offensive linemen and quarterbacks if you can get up to maybe like a 60-man roster. The NFL person in me loves that 2 bye weeks should lead to far less Sunday to Thursday turnarounds. You know, you should at least have some 10-day rests in there. So in some ways it might help injuries. I know it's one more game, but more people will be on the field and you will have more rest. It'll make it a little easier on the international stuff, which we know isn't going away. But it worries me because this past year is the best example, and this past year is a bit of an anomaly that there were so many teams not in the NFL playoff race by like week 16. I mean, the NFL hated that. So everyone's, Mahomes got hurt, but like all these dudes are resting that are destroying fantasy for us.
Right.
You know,
Brock Bowers got put on IR. Rasheed Rice got put on IR.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they wouldn't have otherwise,
So,
right? And
Matt, you know what the solution is going to be to that, right? They're going to add a playoff team in each conference, and that way we have 8 playoff teams.
Let's just water down the NFL and ruin it even more. And
I'm just telling you, that's probably going to be the solution.
Probably what'll happen.
You know what's going to happen too?
Like hockey or,
Yeah.
How much money do you got to spend and watch friggin' games now? Right? I mean, like
hold on. Now we're getting on the
opportunity for the NFL to sell another game to another app, and then you got to buy. It's the same thing with WWE now. Right, Royal Rumble is coming up.
This feels like old man get off my lawn a little bit.
For the ESPN app. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Okay, hold on. We're talking about fantasy and not streaming.
I know. I'm just saying. I told you I was going to get on a rant today.
I know. Pabs, I agree with you. 99% I agree with you. There is one part of this I like a little bit is I love fantasy football, and if I get another week, I get to play fantasy.
But Marcus, how many? But is it more of an additional week of frustration and being mad because
that's fantasy football.
You can't use them in the playoffs, or a guy is injured, or a team is doing the load management thing. Like it's more frustrating. It's what I mean. It takes away from some of the fun.
By far, the biggest problem to me is if we have bye weeks during fantasy playoffs.
Correct.
Because I don't know how you get around that.
Right. And I've got to assume what we're going to see is a lot of like week 5, week 6 buys, and then maybe like week 13, week 14 buys, because I got to assume they're going to want to have all these teams
out. Yeah.
Right. Space them out.
I know, but Marcus, if we're going 18 games, that's 20 weeks.
Correct.
Okay. So that would mean that the fantasy championship would be when?
Probably
week
weeks 15, 16, 17, 18.
No, that's 4 weeks. So it'd
be 16, 17, 18.
It wouldn't be 19. It wouldn't be 19.
Probably not. Honestly, probably not. My guess is.
So then we're knocking off 2 weeks of the regular season for the NFL schedule. So you're saying championship is going to only be in 18?
Probably.
I was thinking.
Well, then it doesn't make any.
It doesn't make any difference. Well, and that's where the one part I do agree with Matt is. I do wonder if the NFL, they didn't like that they get these late season games, and a lot of them are on prime time, and these teams are so beat up that it's just not fun. Like we had a Broncos game with Chris Oladokun playing at quarterback. But if the Chiefs had a week 13 bye, we knew that Patrick Mahomes was banged up all season. Giving him an additional bye week might allow him to stay healthier. Is it at the cost of playing an additional game?
You guys
it might not be worth it, but
these examples are, come on. So basically what you're saying is that 19 and 20 mean nothing in fantasy anymore. The last 2 weeks of the regular season mean nothing.
Yes.
I think that people are going to go to 19. We went from 16 to 17. We went from 16 to 17.
Possible.
Now we're going to go. So, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden I think it's going to go to 19.
Especially if that helps us avoid a bye week. If they're done with bye weeks by like 15.
Right. So I guess we'll have to see when they're putting these bye weeks. But
Yeah,
again, I would already start having some discussions in your dynasty leagues.
No
about,
doubt.
hey, what happens when we go to a 20-week schedule? How should we change our league? Get ahead of those conversations because it's coming.
Matt, can they do it? They can't do it until the CBA is over, though.
You could throw the players some money and
I know
the cap would go up, the rosters would go up.
I know players who are retired. I know players who are active. I have never heard a player say I am excited for an 18-game season. Right. In fact, they all freaking hate it.
Yeah, but you know what the players like?
There's some stuff they can throw to them. Yeah, I mean,
more money.
The cap would go
it's
up.
It's one more game though, Marcus. I mean, how much more money is that when you already have? Maybe like the lower salary guys.
Yeah, but it's like, let's take away a preseason game. Let's take away a couple padded practices. We'll make training camp not as long. How about that?
And what it's taking practices away done to the done to the level of play.
I'm not defending it. I'm just telling you this is what they're going to offer the players is, hey, do you like all those padded practices in July and August? What if we take 5 of them away and take a preseason game away?
I love fantasy football. You guys know that. I hate this. Like, enough. I mean, geez, enough is enough. It's going to be it's supposed to be fun. And at the end of the year, we already hear people complaining about their players aren't playing because they got put on IR because their teams are out of it or they're being rested because of the playoffs. And now, it's going to be very frustrating, especially at running back. Especially at running back. It is going to hurt that position.
We'll definitely have to expand to all fantasy rosters too.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Last thing I got on this real quick is the players that would help the most are the ones that have the least power with the CBA is the borderline undrafted rookies and things like that, that could latch on, which doesn't help our case all that much. And then selfishly, for like the last 30 years, I've gone to Deep Creek, Maryland on Labor Day weekend and partied my face off for my fantasy draft with my buddies, and now would have to move it back a weekend and lose a day. Come on.
And on a personal note, and people are going to be like, oh, you guys are complaining about covering fantasy football for a living. And okay, but do you have to work every holiday from basically September on?
What's a holiday?
Thanksgiving, including Christmas Eve, including Christmas Day, including New Year's Eve.
The thing is, Fabs, we'll suck it up and do it. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. We'll be fine.
But Matt makes a point, and Matt makes a point on a personal level as well. It's just more work and more stuff that you got to do. And listen, I mean, I'm going to be ready for it when it happens because it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But boy, Matt, I tell you one thing, Marcus is going to hate me at the end of the first 18-game schedule when I am complaining up and down.
The players might make more money, but I don't think our 3 salaries are going up.
That's all right.
No.
All right, that is it for today's wild show. We'd like to thank you guys for making us your first listen every single day. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Dynasty ad-free plus members-only Discord access and so much more. Head over to lockedondynasty.supercast.com to join the club. And for those of you on video, we can send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On an audio, make your second listen the Locked On NFL podcast. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. Follow Matt at Williamson NFL. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.